Remember the man who slammed a door in Sam and Dean's faces and later turned out to be the one shaping their story from above? Or the nervous little prophet who quietly disabled the one object that could have blown his cover for years? Yeah. These are Chuck's best moments in Supernatural. The door slam introduction. Chuck's first scene doesn't give you a prophet carved from stone. It gives you a sleep-deprived guy in a bathrobe who takes one look at Sam and Dean on his doorstep and basically tries to shut the door on them because he thinks they're obsessive fans who need a hobby. That's the perfect introduction. In 30 seconds, you know exactly who this guy is. Nervous, funny, a complete mess, and somehow already tangled up in the biggest story in the universe. The show didn't bring him in with thunder and a choir. It brought him in with anxiety and bad posture, and it works completely. You immediately like him, which makes everything that comes later so much more interesting. The moment being, Chuck made him untouchable. Here's where the show drops the first real hint that Chuck isn't just comic relief. Prophets don't just get visions, they get archangel bodyguards. Suddenly, this jumpy writer who loses arguments to himself is the one person in the room that Lilith can't casually erase, because heaven built a cosmic security system around him. Supernatural always loved hiding enormous mythology behind slightly pathetic people, and Chuck might be the single best example of that trick. He still looks like a man who can't win a debate against his own toaster. But the universe itself assigned him protection, and that contrast is genuinely great television. Not because it's surprising, because the casting makes it funnier every time. The Supernatural Convention Panel. The real Ghostbusters is the episode Supernatural fans bring up constantly, and Chuck is the entire reason. He's doing a Q&A about books that are secretly Sam and Dean's real lives, while Sam and Dean stand in the back of the room watching their own fandom materialize in real time. Then, the questions start coming. Why don't the boys keep their weapons on cords so they stop getting knocked away? Why can't Sam see that Ruby is obviously playing him? It's the show roasting itself through the most uncomfortable possible middleman, and Chuck is perfect for it because he's not slick enough to control the room and not smooth enough to lie his way through it. He just stands there, absorbing criticism from his own readers, while the actual Sam and Dean quietly die inside 5 feet away. Beautiful television. The Swan Song narration and the vanish. Chuck's ending in Swan Song is still one of the cleanest pieces of sleight of hand this show ever pulled. He spends most of the episode as your narrator. The guy at the edge of the apocalypse writing it all down. Then, after the grief and the sacrifice, and Dean getting an ending that feels more like a bruise than a reward, Chuck finishes the manuscript, smiles, says that endings are hard and that nothing ever really ends, and disappears. In the moment, it feels poetic. Years later, after the God reveal, it becomes retroactively enormous, turning an already great finale into a giant wink from the universe. That's peak Chuck, gentle, weird, meta, and secretly a much bigger deal than he looks. Turning Dean's amulet back on. This one doesn't just deliver a reveal, it detonates memory. Chuck casually tells Metatron he liked having a front row seat, that hiding in plain sight was fun. And then he pulls out Dean's amulet, the same one that was supposed to burn hot in God's presence, and explains he'd simply turned it off. That's nasty in the best possible way, because every fan who wondered where God was, whether the amulet meant anything, whether Chuck was ever more than a prophet, gets an answer all at once. And the answer is that he was there the whole time, watching, and he was cheeky enough to disable the one object that could have spoiled everything. That's not just a reveal, that's Chuck reaching back through multiple seasons and tapping the audience on the shoulder. Singing while healing Sam. Chuck doesn't descend in thunder with a choir behind him. He picks up a guitar in a bar, starts singing, throws on some stage lights. And while Metatron reads the pages, Sam gets healed, and the darkness in Hope Springs clears. It's the most supernatural version of divine intervention imaginable. The show spent years making God feel absent, abstract, maybe even imaginary, and when he finally acts openly, it happens through a quiet little performance in a nearly empty bar. It feels intimate instead of grand, sweet instead of overwhelming. Chuck is always at his best when he's cosmic, but still oddly, specifically human. And this scene nails that balance completely. The lonely creator confession. Chuck and Metatron in that bar gives you the best straight conversation this character ever has. Because for a few minutes, the show stops doing plot and just lets Chuck talk like a tired creator who made too much and then lost control of all of it. He says he made life because he was lonely. He talks about his sister. He talks about nature, like it might be the only thing he ever got completely right. Then Metatron pushes him to stop writing fairy tale autobiography and tell the actual truth, and Chuck gets dragged. Hard. It makes him feel ancient and petty and hurt and defensive all at once. And that texture is exactly what the character needs. Not just power, personality. This is where Chuck stops being a twist and becomes a full person. If you're enjoying the breakdown, subscribe. Because Chuck is one of those characters where the more you sit with him, the more you realize he was doing way more heavy lifting in this show than most people give him credit for. The Lucifer Apology Tour. Chuck trying to deal with Lucifer in Season 11 is one of the only times the show lets you watch God be emotionally terrible in a way that's completely painfully recognizable. He has all the power in creation, and he still can't have a productive conversation with the son he locked away. It turns into cosmic family therapy with genuinely terrible communication skills on both sides. And then somehow, out of that mess, they end up on the same side, against Amara, with Sam, Dean, Rowena, Crowley, and a collection of deeply unstable allies orbiting the whole operation. Chuck sits right in the middle of it, like the father of the world's most dysfunctional family reunion. Enormous mythology that still feels painfully personal. That's the balance this show chased its whole run. Becky's living room becomes a writer's room from hell. Atomic Monsters gives you villain Chuck in a way that's both hilarious and deeply upsetting. He shows up at Becky's place with writer's block, wants feedback, gets it, and responds like the most powerful bad creative collaborator in the universe. Becky reads his ending, hates it. Tries to talk him out of it, and Chuck goes full nightmare client from the abyss. He insists the ending is perfect, reveals he's God, snaps Becky's family away, and then sends Becky away too, because he simply can.
Babe?
Hey.
Rod! What happened? Where is he?
He's gone.
We're back! Dad got sick, he threw up all over the side of the boat.
Help! The kids.
Oh, don't worry. They're not dead. They're just away. Oh, yeah. I'm God.
That scene works because it takes every single thing that ever made Chuck fun. The meta voice, the writer's language, the need for control, the smugness, and curdles it all at once. He's not the anxious prophet anymore. He's the guy who thinks existence is his personal draft, and everyone else is just notes in the margins. Downgrading the Winchesters to normal. One of the sharpest Chuck moves in the final season is that once he gets petty enough, he doesn't just try to kill Sam and Dean. He strips the narrative protection from around them. Their cards stop working. Dean gets parking tickets. Sam gets sick. Baby breaks down. Dean suddenly has 17 cavities. And Garth basically clocks the whole thing. Chuck downgraded them, and now they're running on normal people settings. That's what makes the hero's journey so smart. It reframes 15 seasons of monster-killing competence through the lens of authorship. Were they actually that good? Or had Chuck been smoothing the road the whole time? Then, the Gamblers takes that idea one step further by making them chase luck itself just to get back in the fight. The show answers that beautifully by forcing them to claw their agency back anyway. But the move itself is pure Chuck, petty, smart, and weirdly theatrical. This is not how the story is supposed to end. The turn in Mariah is Chuck at his absolute best, because it's the exact second the mask stops being useful. Dean can't bring himself to kill Jack. Sam and Dean both realize Chuck has been nudging and shaping their lives and feeding their pain because he wants his story to land exactly the way he planned it. And when they refuse to play along, he doesn't respond like a loving creator. He responds like an angry writer. Whose characters just walked off the page.
No! Pick it up! Pick it up!
The hell,
This
Chuck?
isn't how this story is supposed to end.
The story?
Look at the gathering storm, the gun, the father killing his own son. This is Abraham and Isaac. This is epic.
Wait, what are you saying?
He's saying he's been playing us.
He says, this is not how the story is supposed to end, then drops the apocalypse on them and welcomes them to the finish line. That line lands because it finally turns Chuck's whole meta-energy into a genuine threat. Everything that made him charming, the author voice, the irony, the amused distance, suddenly becomes monstrous. It's the moment the show stops asking whether Chuck is God and starts asking whether that's actually a terrifying thing. Torturing Sam, like he's workshopping a draft. Chuck in the trap is horrifying in a way only Chuck can manage. He's not just hurting Sam physically, he's trying to break him narratively. He controls Eileen, has her cut Sam, heals the wound, plays guitar while he does it, then starts showing Sam future after future of everyone losing, everyone dying, the world rotting out from under them slowly. Any villain can threaten your body. Chuck goes after the one thing that's kept Sam moving since the very first episode, which is hope. He wants Sam to see the ending and accept it. That's what makes this scene so good. It takes Chuck's whole writer identity and turns it into sadism. He's not saying he can kill Sam. He's saying he decides what Sam's story means, and he's going to make Sam watch it collapse. Dark, memorable, and entirely his own specific flavor of terrible. Losing everything and inherit the earth. Chuck's best moment is his ending, because it's the one time the show takes his entire philosophy and flips it completely back on him. After all the manipulation, all the smugness, all the snapping people out of existence, and treating reality like a rough draft, Jack becomes a kind of power vacuum, and Chuck loses everything. His power goes, the author voice goes, the posture goes. And Sam and Dean leave him alive, not as a cosmic being, not as a martyr, but as a regular human being who now has to live inside the kind of fragile, uncertain existence he treated like a game for 15 seasons. The man who loved absolute control gets mortality. The writer who decided everyone else's fate gets to not know how his own story ends. For a character this meta, this slippery, this smug, that's the cleanest full stop imaginable. And honestly, that's why Chuck works. He's funny until he's unsettling. He's comforting until he's manipulative. He's the nerdiest guy in the room until he reminds you he built the room. So what's your number one Chuck moment? The one that made you laugh? The one that broke your brain? Or the one that made you finally want Sam and Dean to punch the author himself? Drop it in the comments and subscribe for more supernatural deep dives, because we are absolutely not done yet.